All right, here we go. The Falcons have their 20th head coach, so a new face in that role, but no new faces on the desk with me tonight. My friends are here. Gabe Burns from the AJC right next to me. How you feeling now that everything is finally settling down a little bit?
Yeah, it's settling down in the football world, and then we've got spring training in just a couple weeks, so it just picks right back up, right?
I feel like I jinxed it a little bit because something's going to happen here when I turn my head. Cody Chaffins from DawgNation. Great to see you as always.
Nice on a slow weekend. Nothing going on, right?
Nothing.
Be here on Sports
Absolutely nothing is happening. Nothing's happening for you, unfortunately, because the Dogs lost, but still, you got plenty to talk about.
Transfer portal, there's plenty going on in DawgNation right now. Still a lot of upset people everywhere, including with the Dogs.
365 days a year. That is the coaching cycle. It is the football cycle. We never stop here on Sports Extra, but what does stop is that coaching carousel. Kevin Stefanski is the Falcons' new head coach. Thoughts on the hire, Gabe?
Yeah, you know, when you look at who's available, when you look at this job, when you look at the circumstances, it's just extremely logical. I mean, this fit, it feels natural. I think you could debate, was he the best person available? A lot of people seem to think behind John Harbaugh he was. Ultimately, when you look at what this franchise needed, I think we all thought they were going to look for experience. I think we all thought they were going to look for an offensive mind. I think that you take a guy who, it's almost like drafting a quarterback who has a ton of upside. And you don't know how exactly it's going to go, but you kind of know here's what he's capable of. If we get him in our system here, there's a lot of upside. With two-time coach of the year, he's got we've been over it. He's got the Browns to the playoffs twice. 4 of those 6 years were failures, though. And so when you talk about some of the fans who are upset, some of the fans who are skeptical, I completely understand that. Like it makes a ton of sense. So in this instance, I think it's a fine hire. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I completely understand the people who are skeptical about it.
The situation in more ways than one in Cleveland has been dire for years, okay? So the whispers around the National Football League, Cody, were Kevin is a guy that if he gets out of Cleveland, he's going to explode somewhere with the right pieces in place. Well, the belief is there's some pretty good pieces here in Atlanta, albeit he's got to figure out the quarterback situation, but he has a lot to work with here in the A. What do you think about Kevin coming here?
Yeah, I'll tell you that my first reaction was one of those things you do, like driving around Buckhead on a trash night. You're just looking for somebody else's garbage. That was the first reaction. And you look up and you're like, you found this piece and you're like, I think it'll work. And you're like, oh, it comes from that house, the Cleveland Browns. He's only won 8 games the last 2 years. So that's the first reaction, right? But then you go through and you're like, all right, so if this is Matt Ryan, president of football, this is the first hire he's going to make. He knows all of that too, right? And he's got to believe in him. I think the big criticism that a lot of folks in Cleveland had about Kevin Stefanski is they said he kept his play calling was for the offense he thinks he should have, not the offense he really has. Well, the thing is, he can have that offense he thinks he should have here in Atlanta because of the pieces like Bijan Robinson and Drake London and some of those pieces that are in place already. So I do think, when you don't have 4 quarterbacks and no quarterbacks, which is what he had in Cleveland, you have a lot more chance of getting it right and looking much better than that 8-26, which looked, on the surface like you're picking up garbage off the side of the road.
That was the most incredible analogy. Gabe and I can never do any better than that.
It's something I've done, by the way. Stocked my college dorm,
I was going to say, were you telling on yourself a little bit?
Yes.
No, I think maybe we've all done that a time or two. But this was the first Falcons hire that Arthur Blank has made where there is previous coaching experience since Dan Reeves all the way back in 1997. Of course, you're looking at me and saying, hey, Raheem Morris, he coached the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but there was a decade removed between the last time he was a head coach. So Arthur Blank doesn't really stamp the approval of these hires. I'm going to say it that time because of Matt Ryan's role in this, right? It's typically the young and up-and-coming offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, what have you, Gabe. But the fact that he has experience, even though Cody just illustrated it very well, 8 wins in 2 seasons, that doesn't look good on paper for sure. But he has experience, 2-time coach of the year, as you mentioned. Why does that matter?
Well, especially when you have Matt Ryan stepping into this, and Matt Ryan is figuring out what his job even is.
That's true.
I mean, he's in the process of figuring that out. I'm going to guess this is going to be a first-time GM too, and so it does help to have someone who's been there. It helps to have a leader who's been to the playoffs. I mean, Raheem, with all due respect, that experience was a long time ago, and it was mostly a failure, right? And this is somebody who has taken the biggest losers in the sport to the playoffs twice, and some of you are probably tired of hearing that because that's all that anyone's pointing to, but there's a reason for that. It's a big deal. And to win 2 Coach of the Years, that's a big deal. So this is someone who has been there. The highs are really high.
Yeah.
The question is the consistency that eluded him in Cleveland going to be here with the more stable front office? It all comes down to the quarterback. You can ask Arthur Smith, you can ask Raheem, like it's going to come down to the quarterback. But I will say the way that the league views Kevin Stefanski, they're going to think he's going to get the most out of whoever the quarterback is here. So I'm fascinated to see it. Again, I understand people's concerns,
Sure.
but given where this franchise is, this is not the Arizona Cardinals. This is not a full-on rebuild. This team believes that it can be in the playoffs next year, and it hired a coach who's been there.
Remember the league-wide conversation that Kevin Stefanski was one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, and then we never really saw that in his time at Cleveland. You guys have both illustrated so many reasons why that is possible for us to have seen it that way, especially here in Atlanta. I know Falcons fans are frustrated. You have every right to be frustrated, but if you really just take some time to understand what happened in Cleveland, you might change your mind just a little bit and say, okay, it might be a little bit worse over there. So why should Falcons fans be hopeful, Cody?
Yeah, I think a lot of the Falcons fans, the anger that you're seeing out there, they say it's not a culture fit for this city. They say, he disrespected one of the greatest Falcons of all time, Deion Sanders' son in Shador, and the way he treated the quarterbacks up there. Well, I can tell you one thing that will change all of that, and Matt Ryan learned it when he had to take over for Mike Vick. Just win. All you got to do is win. That takes care of all of that. All those people who were angry about it or angry right now, if you win, you're fine. If you don't win, you'll be kicked out either way. So I think that's the one thing that Falcons fans, if he doesn't win, he will be gone in a couple years like we saw Raheem Morris be gone.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. All that matters in the NFL, which is ultimately why Raheem Morris does not have a job anymore, is winning football games. So Kevin Stefanski, if you're listening, welcome to Atlanta. He's not listening, by the way. But if he is, just win the football games.